kids are getting pretty wild in there, man. Is that safe?
Yeah, they're fine. I've got their keys.
Everybody, we're going to start off where we left off yesterday, talking about the Americans before the sea.
Hey, have a beer, man. You deserve it.
It's not worth it. Underage drinking risks everything you're working for.
All right, first off, we'd like to welcome our members. Do we have any guests here with us today? We have plenty of wonderful guests. There we go. Who we got over here?
I'm Karen Hiller, and this is my guest, Tim.
Thank you. Welcome, and thank you for being here. All right, anybody who's a guest, if you'd like to sign up for notifications and join the coalition, please talk to Judy. She's right in the back over there. Judy, raise your hand. There we go. All right, now we're going to be moving on a little bit. We have a new member, Bill Persinger from Vallejo Behavioral Health Care. Give him a round of applause for joining up with us here. And now it gives me pleasure to begin the press conference portion of our meeting here today. Please welcome Cindy Patton with the Character Council. And if you're on the Character Council, please join us up here at the front.
Okay, I saw the sheriff and Karen Hiller's here today, so I'm very happy to have them. I'd also like to call up Ron Gwaltney and Don Craig. Come on up. A lot of us have probably sat around and said, when they went to see the wonderful Winter Wonderland, how does that all happen? And these are the guys, a couple of the guys who make that happen, and we want to recognize them today. Ron Gwaltney is active on the TARC board, Foundation Board, and TARC's Space and Facilities Committee, and the Winter Wonderland Committee, to name a few. Ron's commitment to Winter Wonderland is what keeps the lights on. Ron takes a drive through Winter Wonderland 5 or 6 times a week, and it's on the opposite side of town from his home to make sure that everything is working properly. The last 3 years, Ron has been instrumental in organizing Westar employees to volunteer at Winter Wonderland setup. He recruited more than 90 individuals to help in 2017 and was often out there working right along with them. Ron is our go-to guy when displays aren't working correctly or they need repaired, and he is the one that makes the displays move correctly. However, Ron isn't all work and no play. He is kind and generous and even holds Winter Wonderland committee meetings on his boat during the summer months. TARC would be lost without Ron's expertise, and we are honored that he chooses to give of his time to benefit TARC. So we'll do that one, and then we'll do the next one. Go ahead, Karen.
Kansas Character Recognition Council of Topeka, Shawnee County recognizes Ron Gwaltney as the strength of our nation is dependent upon the health and safety of its communities. The strength of our community is dependent upon the character of its citizens. Topeka City of Character and Safe Streets Coalition of Topeka and Shawnee County recognize Ron Gwaltney, demonstrating enthusiasm, dependability, and generosity makes Ron Gwaltney a champion of character.
And that reminds me, enthusiasm is the word of the month this month, which means expressing joy in each task as I give it my best effort. Now let's bring up Don Craig. Craig has been a longtime volunteer at Winter Wonderland. He organizes a crew of volunteers on 2 of the most difficult nights to fill in the Winter Wonderland calendar, Thanksgiving night and Christmas night. Until recently, the Craig family and friends volunteered on Christmas Eve. Don always comes with a smile and a joke or two to keep the holiday nights fun for everyone volunteering and for those who come through the gates at Winter Wonderland. We're so grateful that Don and his family and friends give up their holiday evenings to spend them out at Winter Wonderland.
This proclamation is going to sound a little familiar, but we mean it. Kansas Character Recognition Council of Topeka, Shawnee County recognizes Don Craig. As the strength of our nation is dependent upon the health and safety of its communities, the strength of our community is dependent upon the character of its citizens. Topeka City of Character and Safe Streets Coalition of Topeka and Shawnee County recognize Don Craig. Demonstrating enthusiasm, dependability, and generosity, as with his partner in crime here, makes Don a champion of character. Thank you so much, Don. So let's everybody get the photo up. Don wants to say something.
When she talks about character, I'm a little bit concerned about one or two that we might have up here. You know how it goes? Thank you.
He couldn't resist.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Be sure and send us your nominations to topekacharacter.org. And next we have Noni Kramer. She has the new program that we're starting, Keys for Kids.
Character. Okay. I would like to have Camden Brent join me up here, and Miss Evans, if possible. Okay. Camden was nominated by his teacher, Miss Evans. I would like to read her nomination for the Keys to Character recognition. Camden Brent shows kindness, patience, and compassion to all those around him. A student with special needs was invited to join his 8th grade Skills for Adolescents class at the beginning of the school year. This student was reluctant and showed some hesitation about coming to class on his own. Camden volunteered to go to this student's morning class every day to walk him to SFA class, knowing it would mean he arrives to class a few minutes after it starts and that he will have to encourage his new friend to leave one class to come to SFA, which is not always easy. Camden has also joined the Circle of Friends group, where he socializes, reads with, and does other activities with other students with special needs. Camden is always well received by his peers, as they too know what great character he has. He is a strong role model for those around him, showing that making the right choices, treating others with kindness and respect, and being responsible are keys to success. We'd like to recognize Camden Brent. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Noni and Cindy, and another round of applause for our heroes here. All right, now we have a little business to approve from last month's meeting. We need to approve the minutes. So we'll look for a motion from the floor to approve last month's Safe Streets Coalition meeting. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, minutes are approved. Now please welcome Christy Pankratz, Director of Safe Streets, for a staff update. Loves that applause. Got to have that.
All right, I think it's done. Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? It is good to see you here today. We've got a lot of discussion that's going to take place, so I encourage you to stay through the end of the meeting. There have been different things going on in our community and as a nation, which we're familiar with, and we really want to kind of discuss those at groups. We want to try to figure out solutions and what we as a community can do. So I encourage you to make sure you stay through this entire presentation. But a little bit about what Safe Streets is doing is we've had a lot of neighborhood watch groups going on, and we encourage you that with the holiday shopping season coming up, Holidays, we really encourage you to meet as a neighborhood together. Nextdoor and social media apps are great tools to communicate, but they really can't replace the face-to-face contact of getting to know your neighbors. So if you're not already involved in your neighborhood group, encourage you to call us, and we're happy to help connect you or get one started. We have some meetings coming up. We have meetings for loss prevention officers as well as banking institutions. These work closely with law enforcement. And we also have a substance abuse task force meeting November 16th. We're partnering this month with Central Park Community Center to hold it there at 11:30 a.m. So encourage you that if you're invested or care about substance use among youth, this is a great opportunity to connect and also tour your local community center as well too. So that is in a nutshell what Safe Streets has been up to.
Thank you, Christy. And now we'll have some partner updates. So please welcome Sergeant Dan Wilson from the Topeka Police Department. He sits in the back so he gets the most amount of applause. I know this.
Thank you. The first slide we'll look at is the city violent crime. You guys see the papers, you know violent crime's up a little bit. The positive news here is that if you look week to week and month to month, those numbers are trending down. So hopefully we're through a bad stretch and moving forward and staying positive. Again, like we tell you every month, if you know something, let us know. We can't make things better without your help as the community. So the good news is the next slide. The good news here is obviously, as you can see all the blue, property crime is down quite a bit for Topeka. Obviously, we're getting into a busy time for property crime. Remember, lock it, lose it, or remove it. Another tip that we're spreading right now is if you have a package coming to your house, think about having that delivered to your business or to somebody that you know's home so it doesn't sit on your porch for 8 hours or 10 hours. This is great, though, these numbers, so keep it up. On to our slides. We were able to go out with the Special Olympics Regional Bowling Tournament and watched some serious competition. Got to hand out medals and spend some time with some of our athletes. We also just finished up with another successful season with the PAL Football League. We go out every weekend with them and spend some time, and got to hand out medals and t-shirts at the end of the league and enjoyed our time with all the kids. And the last one, members of 4 agencies here locally, Highway Patrol, Sheriff's Department, Police Department, and Fire Department, had the Battle of the Badges, which is a Special Olympics fundraiser. We raised over $17,000 locally for Special Olympics. And once again, we couldn't do any of this without the community behind us, so thanks for the support. That's all I got.
Thank you, Sergeant Wilson. And now from the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office, please welcome Shawnee County Sheriff's, the man himself, Herman Jones, up here. You coming up? Okay, well, we're going to bring him up later then.
I'll introduce myself.
We got Haas up here. All right, here we go.
I'm shy. He's shy today. I'm Deputy Brett Haas. I'm the co-coordinator for our peer support group in the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. And I've been tasked today to kind of fill you in on what peer support is. So what is peer support? Peer support occurs when people provide knowledge, experience, and emotional and practical help to each other. And what's special about this is, and especially when it comes to law enforcement, it's coming from a peer. That last there you can read, it's kind of long, but somebody of a quality that has been there and done that. So what our group does is we build relationships, and it's something that other officers see that we work directly with them. It's not somebody from the outside coming in, it's us within the agency. Next slide, please. There you go. Peer support contacts, how they can contact us. Team members make contacts in a one-on-one setting. Somebody could be saying, hey, contact us. We have a group email. We have our regular phone numbers. We have work phones. any agency member that may be having a problem with anything, family problems, anything, they can contact us. We can do a one-on-one setting away from the law enforcement center or supervisors or anything. We can sit down and just have a nice talk with them and try to work things out. We also respond to scenes. As we all know, scenes can be, you're all right, go back if you could, just real quick. We respond to the scenes, bad scenes, other scenes that we think that may deem that we may need some, just to make sure that everybody's doing okay emotionally. When we talk about peer support, it's more of an emotional aspect more than a tactical. We have a tactical debrief. We also have emotional debriefs to see how everybody's feeling. Because we all know that if we're feeling good, we work good, and we have a better attitude about being at work. So this is kind of what this group's about. Team members also conduct debriefings, which is a group setting after a major scene or bad incident. That is coming down and telling people you may feel upset, you may feel these emotions may come out, raw emotions, and it's okay that you feel those. We're all human. So, and we're available 24/7 on any shift. Go ahead, next slide. Some of the stress factors we see in law enforcement: alcohol abuse, marital problems, family problems, money trouble, anger, excessive aggression, and suicide or thoughts of suicide. All of these are common problems without society also. We're not, as law enforcement, we're not excluded from that. And sometimes some of these get amped up. Because we're in law enforcement, I like to say we are just normal people like everybody else. We're put into difficult situations by going and seeing things that some people would never see in their entire life. We see it on a day-to-day basis. So, next slide. This is right out of our directive here. Any employee of the Shawnee County Sheriff may contact a peer support team member of his or her choice at any time, whether on duty or off duty, to request assistance or support. And any employee may meet on duty with a peer team member. That one's a good one too. Any member that, or any employee, and when I say employee, that is anybody that works for the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office. That's from sworn personnel to civilians to dispatchers. Anybody can meet with us in our group if they're experiencing something. We also encourage the other employees, if they notice something. We teach classes. If you notice some signs or something, give us a heads up, because we like to know. That way we can maybe just go talk to them and say, hey, what's going on? How's your day going? So, next slide. This is something that nobody likes to talk about, but law enforcement deaths. In 2016, law enforcement line of duty deaths, there was 147. Also in 2016, law enforcement suicides, there was 108. So that's an estimate. It's out there, and that's what our organization is trying to hone in on: who's having issues and how can we lower this number. Suicides are up nationwide, and we're all trying to lower the number. We are big on nobody's ever alone. You may feel like you're alone, but there's always somebody there for you. We're here for you. We work the scenes with you. We're in this line of work. Law enforcement in general is a very closed off to the outside when it comes to feelings or talking. Somebody may know somebody that's in law enforcement. We all have stories when we get together. We all tell stories about, hey, this scene, that scene. Hey, we joke and everything else. The things that we don't talk about, or maybe how those scenes made us feel, how maybe some of the things that we saw stuck with us throughout our career sometimes, and how do we deal with that? How do we deal with stress? So we're definitely we're watching these numbers, and we're definitely trying to impact and lower those numbers. All right, next slide, please. Our peer support team is set up with deputies, supervisors, dispatchers, civilian employees, and the chaplains on our team too. So we tried to set up a diverse amount of people on this team, that it shouldn't be any reason that someone at the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office can't find somebody to talk to or talk something about whatever's bothering them. That may, any of those that I gave the list to. Some people may want to talk to a deputy. Some people that are ranked may want to talk to somebody else that's ranked. We have that. Dispatchers are the forgotten ones. Dispatchers take the call. They hear the 911 call. They dispatch us. They hear us on the radio, but they don't get any closure a lot of times on that. Those calls can bother dispatchers too, so we want to make sure that we're there For our dispatchers, civilian employees, you've got civilians typing reports of death scenes and stuff like that. So we're there, and once again, the peer support team's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're there no matter what. We're always on call. So, and we're trying to expand our group. So every team member is trained. We send them to training on one-on-one crisis and group crisis on how we do that. So we get some extra training on that. We've seen some success, real success. When we first introduced this, we're on our second year. When we first introduced this, I gave a presentation to all of our agency through our training program, and they were like you. They were completely silent, like, you know, are you going to sing Build a Fire and Sing Kumbaya? And I said, if that's what it takes. If that's what it takes. We'll do whatever it takes to get people help and to continue on. We like to keep our employees healthy, and it's a known fact, like I said before, if you're mentally healthy, that cuts down on sick time, that cuts down on complaints at work, that cuts down on supervisors complaining about employees. And so that's what we're here for. We're the ambassadors for that. We kind of work in the background, and we're always checking on people. Everybody know me. Everybody at the station knows me as the peer support guy. And if I say hi, they're always like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. No, I was just saying hi. So, all right. So that wraps it up in a short version of what we do there for the Shawnee County Sheriff's Office employees. Is there any questions? All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we've got a little roundtable discussion we're going to be doing. There's some questions on your table. We're going to do a little introduction with that. First off, to introduce it, I am going to ask our Sheriff, Herman Jones, to come up here to the front and talk a little bit about this with us. He looks very surprised. He looks very surprised. Give him a round of applause.
Okay, let's see what I can say here. No, actually, it's going to be a carryover for some of the things we've talked about initially there, and I'm mistaken because I don't have those questions with me in front of me there, but I think some of the questions probably stem from a conversation we had with some of our community leaders as to the concerns that we have about crime in our community, and obviously that is a concern. I know for myself and our agency and the police department, I'm not going to speak for them, but I will speak on behalf of the Chief Kramer, who's getting ready to go out on retirement there. But he and I have many of conversations and some collaborations that go along with that. But I also include the district attorney's office that we bring in there. But it's more than that. It really is. It becomes all of us in our community there. So I know, like Chief Brown over here, when we're talking about Topeka Public Schools, all of our schools become a part of our concerns that we have. It's not necessarily about the crimes that happen on the streets and homes, but we have issues that stem out into our student population there. So it's very important that we have our law enforcement integrated into the school system as well as what Chief Brown represents very much for 501. So of the concerns, really, I'll get here and I can talk about that, and I know Captain Wheelis will get up here and he'll have some of the same concerns. And what we see in the media and what we have in the newspaper and the media of all types is that we see the violence. We see those things that are going on out there, and you'll hear it from myself and police department or other law enforcement officials. Most of the time of what you see is a small percentage of our population. And so there's this bit that we talk about in law enforcement, it's the 1%ers. It's that 1% of our population that goes errant to the normal law-abiding citizen. So when we see that in a newspaper of people, there's been a shooting, or there's been someone arrested on drugs, or whatever it is, or so, it's a small part of that. But I get it, and I understand that, because I talk to many people from across the state. My in-laws live several miles away, and they see the news that comes out of Topeka. And the first few minutes of the news It's about what's happening, what's violence, what's negative, or those type of things. You very seldom see something about saving a puppy from a ravine. That's the cover story. That's on the backside. So what people will see is what leads on that, and so it gives a negative image. So I know that we're working very hard to overcome those few moments that you will see in there, in the newsprint or in the newspapers or radio and those type of things right there. So that is a concern. A big concern that it really comes with me as well, not that it's secondary to the personal types of injuries that people receive and shootings and whatever, but property crime. And I see many of us that have been coming to these meetings over and over and over. And how do we get that message across? Because it's frustrating for myself, and I know from talking to Chief Kramer, it's very frustrating when we're trying to deal with property crime and get it down. And I know the statistics. We talked about this. I know Deputy Chief Scott would talk about how we're bringing numbers down. We're arresting more people and getting them in jail, but numbers are still there. You know, if we have one crime, it's still too many. And we know we're dealing with humans, but the one human mistake that we see over and over is individuals are reluctant to take security upon themselves. So when we talk about what do we have? Lock it, remove it, or lose it. Exactly. We know that. It's trying to get that message across to our community, because every week when we go through our meetings, our staff meetings, and I'm getting the stats of what's going on, and we see a car burglary or so many car burglaries, and we look at that and say 75% of those of a burglary, if we had 10 of them, about 7 of them are vehicles that were left unlocked. And I've said this many times. Criminals are like water. They will go to the least resistance. And if we can train our community and get them really to the point mindset that if they lock their doors, it makes it that much harder for someone to get into their cars or to their homes or to their property and those type of things right there. And second to that is just being very vigilant to their surroundings, paying attention to what's going on, and then communicating that. You've heard me say that all of us are part of that law enforcement community. Those in uniform that are in here right now, it's only so many of us, but we become that force multiplier when we put everybody in here that's being the force of crime prevention. Count how many eyes there are in this room, how many ears there are. Now you become that multiplier that we need to do our job more effectively when we're talking about trying to make our community much safer. So that becomes a concern. Some of the things that, how can we address that? We address it every day, I know, by putting task force and people assignments, and we're going through stats and how we can reduce that. But one is getting out, communicating to our community, and making sure that you are understanding of that. And I think I'm the choir director right now. You're the choir. You come, you understand that. It's our mission to get out there to communicate that to the people that are not here, or the people that are a little reluctant to take heed to these warnings and this information or so. So every day we're trying to communicate that. I was doing a television interview early this morning talking about the very same thing, and it's the same message. We need the people to do our job. Sir Robert Peel talks about that we are the police and the police are the people. It's all of us in this together. So that becomes one of the things of what we can do and how we can get that across, but also get that message across. When you see something, say something. Communicate that to us. You can be the eyes and ears, but we'll be the doers, the crime fighters to go out there and do that. We're actually the ones that are trained to go out and do those type of things right there. Don't put yourself in jeopardy of harm's way. Allow us to go out and take care of that, but be that force multiplier by when you see it, say something to us and communicate that to us. So challenges that we have. One of the biggest challenges that I know, because I just said, utilizing the people. But for people in uniform, our biggest challenge is people in uniform. I know for myself, we have a deficit of personnel. I know the police department, they will speak about, they have a personnel deficiency there. And that is not just common, that's not just so unique to this community here. You can take that statewide and you can take that nationwide. We have a deficiency in law enforcement, or people that are in law enforcement. And that's at every level, local, state, and federal. FBI is down so many agents, DEA, ATF, KBI, Highway Patrol. Local here, you go to Kansas City, you talk to many agencies. So it becomes a point of how do we bring people into this community, or come into the community of law enforcement. That's a very difficult task we have right there. But we'll work at it as much as we can. We're not going to just take anybody to fill those positions. We want the best people. So we are out there doing our recruitment. I know the police department is doing their recruitment, doing what we can, but it's troubling when you have about 50 positions and you only get about 10 people that are actually viable that can take on those positions right there. So that becomes a challenge there. But barriers, we can knock through those, but we can all do this united and going forward with that. So I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate the message that we try to convey, and that you take that out and take that out to the other people that are not here. But it takes a united front, and I think these are the people in this room that can do that. So thank you.
Thank you. We certainly appreciate you being here with us today. Now, please welcome Captain Brian Wheelis from the Topeka Police Department.
Sheriff Jones, always a tough act to follow. He stole most of the bullet points that I had to talk about, so you'll hear some of the same themes. Obviously, that's a good thing for consistency between the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department, who collaborate very well. Great partnership. For those of you who don't know, I am Captain Brian Wheelis. I've lived and worked in Topeka for the last 24 years. Not quite as much of a freelancer as the sheriff, so I have a little more formalized remarks, so I'll look down from time to time. You'll have to pardon me on that. I'm currently the executive officer to the Chief of Police, but my career experience ranges across all 4 of the bureaus within the department. I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to speak today in regards to the status of public safety in the capital city, because that's very important to me and to my agency. As you saw, the property crime numbers are down. To put that in perspective, over the course of the year comparison, we're down 8.45% from 2016. Overall crime numbers are down 7% from 2016. These decreases are the result of hard work, commitment, and dedication from your local law enforcement, coupled with phenomenal support from our citizens. We can't do it without your help, as the sheriff said so eloquently. Reported instances of violent crime occurring in Topeka happen far too often. In 2017, we have experienced the same upward trend in these categories as many other cities across the state and country. We are up 6.71% in this category currently. We have experienced 22 fatality incidents with 26 victims in 2017. This is a concern to all of us. In 2017, the Topeka Police Department has allocated manpower to increase the capabilities and shift coverage of the Organized Crime and Gang Unit, the Behavioral Health Unit, in response to violence in our community. We have implemented violent crime focus areas and provided additional resources to neighborhood crime reduction initiatives based on analysis of crime data pertaining to location, frequency, and other trends. Thus far in 2017, just to give you some summary of what we're actually talking about and dealing with, the TPD has answered 87,788 calls for police service. It's a big number. I heard you say wow, and I agree with you. We have made 4,555 arrests in furtherance of public safety. That's an increase of over 500 arrests when compared to 2016. It's the point the sheriff talked about. Arrests are very much a vital part of what we do as the law enforcement function, but beyond that is the discussion that we have to have as well, what else we can do. I am very proud every day of the police work that I see from the men and women of the TPD. They sacrifice precious time with their families in furtherance of public safety. They seek justice and endure scrutiny without complaint. They epitomize a level of dedication denoted in all professionals. Their professional successes are very impressive. But in a free and democratic society, we police by consent of the people, and we are provided our authority to do so therein. Therefore, it is incumbent upon all law enforcement agencies to make it a mission-critical priority to develop community partnerships, just like we are here today, and embrace accountability and transparency within the parameters of the applicable laws. Beyond the professional successes of the TPD, and far less well-known, but except to this group, because now I've seen the education, Sergeant Wilson did a good job of showing the other point that I'm going to talk about here, which is the community service, the charity work, and the outreach efforts that TPD personnel do in their personal lives. We are leaders in this community. We live, work, and raise our families here. There were some great examples in Sergeant Wilson's slide, you know, the Battle of the Badges, the bowl-a-thons, great work. We actually are this community, as Sheriff Jones said. Community engagement and involvement in support of crime reduction efforts, prevention services, and youth development programs are essential to the future success of the city of Topeka. I am in agreement with a number of recent statements from local government and civic leaders who are calling for the invention of programs that provide positive options for youth in this community, or additional support for established programs in that same vein. It has been my pleasure, I'm in my second year of being a board member on the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors here in Topeka, so I personally have seen the outstanding work that charity and community outreach organizations can do and how the impact on the children and the family, it's really hard to even put. Statistics don't really measure out what those impacts of those organizations, these organizations are. So I just wanted to talk about that. The next question that we have to do, we always have to answer in law enforcement and in other fields, is what else can we do? Because there's always more we can do. There's always more that needs to be done. Some suggestions. In 2017, a majority of the fatality incidents that we investigated have been firearms related. 90 firearms were stolen in vehicle burglaries within the city limits, majority of those occurring from unlocked or otherwise insecure vehicles. This is the point that Sheriff Jones was talking about, specifically to firearms. You don't have to be too much of an expert to see that more guns taken out of vehicles puts more guns on the streets in the hands of criminals, which is very easy to equate the uptick in violence. It's kind of a basic math that even police officers can do as far as that goes, 1 + 1 + 1. So remain vigilant as you travel around the city and report criminal or suspicious behavior to law enforcement. As Sheriff Jones said, see something, say something. All the eyes, the force multipliers, all of the points that the sheriff made, we obviously support and agree with. I want to thank you especially to Safe Streets Coalition today for their long organizational history of impacting this community and for affording me this opportunity to speak today. Personally, I want to thank all of you in attendance for your individual commitment to moving forward as a community that values cooperation with law enforcement based on open dialogue, diversity, and inclusion to improve the interactions between citizens and city government. So hopefully that wasn't too painful for anybody. Hopefully I got some of the information out, some of the points that I had. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain Wheelis. And now at your tables, we have some questions that are here. We'd like each of you to go around at your table, make sure you're all introduced with everyone you're sitting with, and just take about 10 minutes here to discuss some of the questions that we have on the list here. For those of our friends watching on City 4, the questions that we have are, what are your crime safety concerns in Shawnee County? Number 2 is, what can the community do to address crime safety concerns with law enforcement, government, business, and neighborhoods, and you? And number 3 is, what challenges or barriers exist that prevent the above items from being addressed? So if one person at the table would just make some notes on those things, don't want to spend a whole lot of time getting too deep into it, but just kind of lay out your concerns at your tables, and then we'll check in with you in about 10 minutes. So thank you very much. Thank you for having the discussion with us. Just real quick before we wrap up here today, coming over here to this table, what'd you guys figure out? Did you solve the world here for us?
Just tune in to City 4. Sheriff Jones has all of the answers on that channel there. Just messing with you, Chris. No, we just talked about personal safety is one of the issues within Shawnee County as far as what the community can do, be more aware of what's going on, take advantage of resources within the community. For example, having your house evaluated for SEPTED. And the challenge that we talked about briefly was that people don't want to take responsibility for what they have contributed to that behavior.
Excellent work. Thank you. All right. Who wants to speak about what you guys figured out back here?
I'm new to this sort of meeting, and it was helpful for me just to have an opportunity to dialogue with law enforcement officers. I don't have any particular concerns other than just hearing what they have to say and being able to hear what sort of things they would communicate to me.
Too many guns, too many people in poverty, financial disenfranchised people, and you kind of add that up, it's kind of a scary mixture. We also feel like there needs to be more awareness of our law enforcement. We're thankful for Channel 13 and their Law Enforcement Person of the Week. We feel like the law enforcement are the unsung heroes of our world, and they're getting a bad rap sometimes, like Sheriff Jones said, where the 1% of the bad cops are making it really bad on the 99% of the good cops. So we need to have better awareness and more support all around.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Anyone else have anything to add? All right. Excellent.
That we tend to see violent crime increase in our community. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. And then the other one was just that the perception that nothing happens when crime is reported. And we had some discussion about that, and whether or not that's true, it could always be that information can't be passed back to the reporting party about what had happened. For two, we had some discussion around don't assume the crime is mandatory. It doesn't have to be tolerated. There was some discussion about we just kind of assume that there's going to be a certain level of crime. Not that we want to work you guys out of a job or anything, but that it doesn't have to be tolerated, and that just as Sheriff Jones said, even one crime is too much. But and then empowering law enforcement to come onto private property. This was probably specific to this group because it was more so kind of on the business side to it, but having appropriate signage so that law enforcement can come and enforce laws on private property is something that could probably be done a little bit better. And then for number three, challenges or barriers that exist to prevent the above from being addressed. Just communication, better and better communication amongst all parties is what's needed. So.
We have now a culture of disrespect for authority. We need more personal responsibility, and there's no fear of being caught. And what can we do to prevent this? One of the things, have more honest conversations. And for number three, we are not being honest with ourselves.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chrissy.
A lot of what we talked about was just the regular prevention, open eyes and ears, pay attention to crime. And one of the challenges is apathy of people, getting people to be involved and engaged in what's going on and learning about that. So if we can find the key to getting people involved, I think we'll have a magic key. So that's one we keep looking for.
All right, and we noticed, at least I noticed, a common trend. Communication is something, and that's what we're doing here in this room. For anybody who's watching on City 4, I want to invite you to come and join us the first Wednesday of the month here at the Great Overland Station for the Safe Streets Coalition meeting. Thank you so much for everyone who came out. Congratulations to all of our heroes, and we'll see you back here next month for the Safe Streets Coalition meeting.